right, so everyone's on this side of the room. That's pretty cool. So hello, good afternoon. My name is Mallory Garza. I'm a doctoral intern at KSU Counseling Services. Today I've joined forces with Jody Kaus of Powercat Financial.
Hi, and I'm the director of our Powercat Financial Education Center over in the Student Union, and I'll share a little bit more about those services towards the end.
So as I mentioned, we kind of joined forces today so that we could come to you and give you a presentation on financial stress and mental health, specifically in college students, so specifically geared toward you all here today. And of course, anyone who may be joining us online. So for those, if there is anyone joining us online, just keep in mind, if you have any questions or concerns, you can type those into the comment box and we can address questions toward the end of the presentation. So prior to getting started today, I want to kind of give us a snapshot of what we're dealing with here. Tuition and fees at public four-year universities increased 13% from 2010 to 2015, and they continue to rise annually. On top of that, the expense of tuition is piled on top of the expense for books, for meal plans, for housing, and other miscellaneous expenses. So it can be a lot for anyone to deal with, especially when you're trying to deal with all the stressors and pressures that come with daily college life. So today we're going to look at some of the ways that college students can be impacted by financial stress, as well as some of the effective and healthy ways of coping with or dealing with financial stress. So getting into this, let's take a quick look at some statistics. Research shows that approximately 70% of college students report feeling stressed about their finances. So 70%, that's 7 out of 10 individuals. So if we think about people in your classrooms, if we count off even, rows of 10, statistically speaking, if we take that average, you're going to have a very large average in those classrooms of individuals who report feeling stressed over their financial situations or circumstances. Moreover, over 33% of college students nationwide report feeling that their academic progress is negatively impacted by financial stressors, meaning that financial stressors is affecting them in such a way that this also impacts their academic performance. So you're talking about decreased grades and decreased GPAs, which of course negatively impacts college students in various ways. Nearly 3 out of 10 students reduce course load because of the money that they owed, whether that's for private loans or student loans. 16% of students took a break from college or university altogether, and 13% transferred to a different institution that would allow them to pay less than they would at the university they started out with.
So one phenomena that was discovered in looking at some of this national data is trying to figure out what are some of those stress points for students. And one of the largest predictors of financial stress was that they were not having enough money, they felt like, to participate in some of the same activities as their peers. So have you all heard of the phenomenon FOMO, yeah, fear of missing out. So that's part of what is going on with regards to both anxiety, stress, and finances sometimes. So fear that your peers are participating in certain activities, maybe your friends are going out to eat, and so you feel the pressure to do that. We do find that the eating out and grocery budget is usually the budget breaker for most students that we meet with at Powercat Financial. So just being cognizant of that kind of behavior and that issue within your own daily experience as a student, I think can be helpful as we talk through the different ways to go about combating financial stress.
So this gives us another visual snapshot of kind of that statistic we looked at earlier, with approximately 70% of college students reporting stresses concerned with financial considerations. And then even looking at the primary funding for tuition, up to 36% of college students report that their primary funding for tuition comes from student loans, 35% reporting scholarships, 19% family. So this just gives us kind of a visual depiction of what financial considerations we have when we come to college as college students. All right, so I think it's also important to kind of define what is financial stress, right? Brown University defines economic stress or financial stress as the feeling of stress due to current state of one's personal finances and or due to fear about the economy. So there are many ways in which economic or financial stress can be triggered. Some of these ways include the experience of a loss of a job or major changes to families' finances and budget, feeling of not having enough financial resources compared to others. So this kind of gets back to what Jody mentioned a moment ago regarding FOMO, fear of missing out, whether that's wanting to engage in activities that often come with college life, whether that's a fraternity or sorority or various clubs and organizations, going out to eat with friends, going to the movies, going shopping, like all these kinds of things can impact our stress, especially when we feel that we don't have the resources to allocate to these things that we want to do the way that maybe our peers surround us. And this is also something that's nationally representative, ranging from students, whether that's at K-State or Brown University, where this study's coming out of. So whether you're at a four-year college, university, or an Ivy League university, students throughout the country at various public and private institutions report experiencing this kind of phenomenon. And then also balancing the need to work while in college. So just curious, there's not many of you here present today. If you feel comfortable sharing, I'm wondering how many of you currently hold a job, whether that's to pay for tuition, to pay for other miscellaneous expenses, to pay for some organization or fraternity you may be a part of. Anyone here currently hold a job? Yeah, look, so, I mean, that's at least 3 out of 5 of individuals here present, which is still a majority, right? So this is a common concern for college individuals, balancing this need to work while in college, whether that's to actually pay for tuition or to pay for miscellaneous expenses so that you can actually have fun while you're not studying in the classroom. So concerns about personal finances are a source of stress among college students. A 2012 national study on college students and financial stress found that personal finances accounted for 4 of 5 top factors that contributed to overall stress levels. So these top 5 factors were needing to repay loans, the cost of education, as we've seen it continues to rise annually, borrowing money from college, whether that's from family members, from friends or other institutions, private loans, student loans, needing to find a job after college, and then the academic challenge of coursework itself. So these are the top 5 factors that students report feeling stressed over, specifically in regard to their college education. 4 of these 5 are related to financial concerns. All right, so how financial stress affects your health. And specifically, we're looking at a little bit of mental health here because, hey, I'm from counseling services and that's what we do. Okay, so looking at how financial stress might impact mental health, we can look at unhealthy coping behaviors. So people experiencing financial stress may be more likely to numb their anxiety or even depression that they may feel over these issues by overeating, smoking, drinking, engaging in risky sexual behaviors, or other activities that may not necessarily be productive for that particular individual. This in turn often leads to additional stress on top of that, which we're already experiencing from the financial stress. Another one is loss or less money to engage in self-care. So with less money in the budget, people who are already under financial stress tend to cut corners in areas like healthcare to pay for basic necessities like food. Small problems can go unchecked and turn into larger problems. This also leads to more stress, but then having less money to take care of yourself, whether it's in the evenings or on the weekends, and that includes going out with friends, going to movies, shopping, all that kind of thing that we tend to do to kind of take care of ourselves. Another one is lost sleep. When under financial stress, people often experience trouble sleeping, which can add up to a sleep deficit, impairing immune function and cognitive abilities and causing additional moodiness as well, often resulting in things that look like depression. Another one is unhealthy emotions. So as an example, credit card debt can cause unhealthy emotions that can take a toll on one's health. People can experience anxiety, frustration, a sense of hopelessness, or shame as the debt piles up, and these things can be unproductive for our overall mental health and well-being. So this is another visual depiction kind of some of those things that financial stress seems to impact negatively, some of which we've already discussed. Others that maybe we haven't include getting into accidents, especially if one is sleep deprived because of stress that they may be experiencing. Health problems, various health problems, immune problems, of course. Financial stress can also lead to presentations of anxiety and depression and relationship issues as well. So some symptoms of economic stress, some of which we've already gone over, include the trouble sleeping, digestive problems, unexplained weight gain or loss, inability to enjoy regular activities that one otherwise might really enjoy, and even severe anxiety or panic attacks. So all of these can be symptoms of severe economic stress if left uncontrolled or unmanaged. So some warning signs that one may need to seek help dealing with stress include the following that you see here. I won't read through the entire list because it's a lot, but even looking into some somatic complaints, physical complaints like ulcers and nausea, diarrhea, or constipation, as well as some more mental or psychological experiences such as problems with sexual activity, overeating or loss of appetite, and inability to relax. So in order to try to combat some of the stress that we may be experiencing from financial concerns, we can engage in self-care. Now, self-care can look differently in different contexts. Of course, taking care of the basic needs, making sure that we're getting good quality sleep, almost more importantly, arguably, than quantity sleep. We want to make sure that the sleep that we are getting is good, sound sleep. If you notice things like waking up frequently throughout the night, in a panic or worrying, frequent nightmares, not getting good quality sleep, that might be an indication that you would need to seek help. Of course, counseling services is available for K-State students. Other basic needs include making sure you're drinking enough water. Exercise is a huge one to help manage stress. One of the first things we look at is how the physical activity an individual is getting. We want to release those endorphins and all those positive other chemicals that lead to increased mood and can help manage stress. Regular meals, also the types of foods that we're eating is also important in order to manage stress, making sure that we're getting enough protein and calcium and all that good stuff. Other ways of engaging in self-care may look like utilizing campus resources, whether that's counseling services or departments like Powercat Financial that can help you manage some of this stress and manage some of the concerns with which you present. Budgeting strategies, taking time for fun, rest, and relaxation, whether that looks like bubble baths or movies or video games or hanging out with friends or board games, whatever that looks like for you, making sure that you are trying to take some time out to kind of have fun, rest, and of course relax. Spending time with family and friends is a great way to reduce stress, and one of my absolute favorites is pets. So one of the things that the outreach program puts on is Pet Away Stress, something that you can look for a couple times throughout each semester. But spending time with pets and living up on pets has a lot of health benefits, and research even shows that when humans and dogs make eye contact, that the neurochemical oxytocin is released in both brains of animal and human, which boosts mood, which of course can also help with stress. So definitely pets.
But pets can be expensive.
They can be expensive. Maybe if friends have pets, volunteering at a local shelter, all of these things are other alternatives to actually owning a pet as a college student. Plus, I don't think you can get them in the dorm rooms if you live on campus, so that might also be a barrier. But yeah. So I just really like this image. Self-care brings magic to your life, like unicorns. So in speaking of animals, even mythical creatures and animals, self-care can really do wonders for an individual's psyche. Other examples of reducing anxiety and stress include breathing, exercise, grounding techniques, mindfulness and meditation, engaging in self-care, sleep, diet, and exercise. All, of course, these things, including mindfulness and meditation, learning about breathing exercises and grounding techniques, can be provided with treatment or care at counseling services. So if you're interested, please feel free to check us out.
So we're going to have you do an exercise. Just take a brief minute here for you and those that are listening online to write down for yourself what you feel like are your top 3 financial stressors currently. And they don't have to be, big ones, maybe just some small things that tend to creep into your everyday life as regard to finances and things that cause you a little bit of pressure or stress. I'll share one idea that I might have for myself is bill payment time. The bills kind of come in the mail and they get set aside, but then at some point they need addressed, and just having a good strategy for when that needs to occur and not letting anything fall through the cracks. Life gets really busy, and that's probably not my most favorite activity to do. And so I tend to procrastinate and maybe not dedicate as much time as I should to that. And so it does creep into being a little bit of a stressor for me to have to deal with managing bill payment in our household, because we have a family of 4. So there's lots of different things that we need to make sure do get paid. So the lights stay on, the mortgage gets paid, all of those things. So next, I want you to actually think of how you have had success with finances. Some small things that you either do now or have done in the past that gave you a sense of control maybe, or just that you were making progress towards one of your financial goals. Perhaps it's that you have been able to set aside a little bit of that income that you make from your part-time job and putting it into savings. So that is a successful step in achieving financial goals for yourself. So I think just thinking about those 3 steps, 3 times that you have had success, kind of sets you on a path to maybe making more progress and thinking about how you can expand that now and do more in one of those areas. So maybe you started putting aside 10% of your paycheck into savings. Well, maybe the next step is thinking about putting a little bit into your student loan repayment. Maybe your interest is accruing on your unsubsidized loans, and since you have some extra money in your budget, you might be able to afford to start making some payments now towards that debt, which may help you down the road in future goals. So writing down your financial goals is very important. We want you to use that SMART acronym, be very specific, make it a measurable goal, something that's attainable, not too unrealistic. Being a millionaire in the next 5 years may not actually be able to happen, but hopefully that's a goal down the road. Also relevant to you. My goals are different than everybody's here. That's why they call it personal finance. And then have a time frame to it. And research has again shown if you have that somewhere visible, maybe put it on the refrigerator or somewhere where you can see it on an everyday basis, you're much more likely to reach those financial goals for yourself, and versus a vague idea of someday I'd like to repay my student loans versus I'm going to repay 5,000 of my student loans within the next 5 years by setting aside every month $50 from my paycheck. So something very specific like that can be very helpful. And again, starting with some just very small steps that you can incrementally feel some achievement with, and then building on that can really help. And we do find that having somebody to hold you accountable to all of these new ideas and plans that you have in place for yourself can be very effective. And just talking out loud to maybe your family or to friends and saying, hey, I've decided I have a financial goal of XYZ. And so as a result, I'm going to cut back a little bit on eating out. So I can't go out to eat with you all every week, maybe every other week I can do that. Or maybe instead of eating out, we could swap meal planning, and you could eat at my place this week, and then you can fix the meal and we'll come over to your apartment next week, and then we'll get the same social outlet but not spend quite as much. And so I think having something to hold you accountable, sometimes meeting with somebody like Powercat Financial, you can create the budget and maybe set a follow-up with us in 6 weeks, and we can hold you to the plan and say, how's that been going? How have you made progress towards the budget that we have created together, and really keep you on task with that. A lot of times we create that budget, but we never look at it again. So we really didn't change our behavior. And that's really what we're trying to achieve, is some behavior change and progress towards your goals. There's lots of apps and tools that also can do that for you. So on the budgeting side, there's apps like Mint, a free budgeting tool that you can use. There's other ones out that are available. And they can send you alerts, and those alerts then can hold you accountable to the plan that you've set for yourself. So think about different techniques like that as well. So we do see at Powercat Financial, it is peer-to-peer, so it's students helping other students. So it's very effective. One student can model good financial behavior for another student and really encourage them to take control of their finances. And sometimes that's really the first step, is some control over some of these decisions can reduce your stress and make you feel like you have a plan. You know exactly where your money needs to be allocated. So having a peer counselor help you through that process can be really beneficial, we found. And then maybe just getting a big picture of where you're at with your finances. A lot of students, don't really understand exactly what they've borrowed, maybe in their student loans, or what types of student loans they've borrowed. Also understanding all the details of your paycheck. I don't know if you've ever noticed that sometimes there's things getting taken out of your paycheck that maybe you weren't sure exactly what those are for, and sitting down with a financial counselor that can review all of those details with you and give you a better understanding of your financial position can really help reduce some of that anxiety. And then working with them, sometimes the budget process isn't just to figure out how you can reduce expenses, but sometimes it's on the other side of trying to figure out what income is needed to cover some of those expenses that you have, and how much work is appropriate for a student, because we do want to make sure that it's in an appropriate balance and that it's not excessive and that then impacts your schoolwork. But then you obviously need to pay the bills, right? So you do need to know that you have sufficient income for all of that. And that's definitely something that we can help with, or that you can create a plan to achieve. And then there are difficult topics that as you're transitioning as a student from being financially dependent to hopefully financially independent when you graduate, that you maybe have never had to deal with before. So credit and credit reports and credit scores is really a big area that we like to educate students on. Also, maybe as you transition into work, understanding benefits, knowing what a retirement plan is, a 401k plan, understanding insurance options. Maybe you've never had to have your own health insurance, but in the future you will be. And that sounds like a lot and maybe overwhelming, but if you can kind of demystify those and you can seek out that help and input from a professional that can really explain that to you, that can really help you reduce your stress, I feel like. So at Powercat Financial, I just want to reiterate that students do come in quite a bit for various topics. I would say one of the top areas that we're helping students with is just paying for school and creating their own personal college financial plan and looking over their student loan borrowing and then understanding what the repayment end of that is going to look like. It feels like now you're taking on the student loans to achieve your college degree, and that repayment is a long ways off. But in 3 or 4 years, it's something you are definitely going to have a plan for, and we can really explain how that can work to your benefit and be a lot easier for you to manage. There's also some loan forgiveness programs that a lot of students aren't aware that they're eligible for, and that can cut back on some of the student loan debt if you qualify based on some professions that you may be looking into. For example, public service in the government or nonprofit sector, or teaching, or in the medical professions. There are different loan forgiveness programs, and in Kansas, we have one called the Rural Opportunity Zone Program, where if you move out into a rural county in Kansas, kind of the western half, southern half of our state, you can have up to $15,000 of your student loans forgiven. So, those are things that you probably aren't aware of, that if you sought some help, we can explain and help you have a better understanding of your financial position. And then also, students come in a lot of times to seek help in managing credit. Maybe they have had a credit card and didn't use it properly, or weren't sure how to use it to improve their credit. So we can go through the factors with them and help them get back on track and make sure that they're making some good financial decisions in regards to credit. So anytime that you want to seek out those areas of assistance from us, it's free and available to all students anytime they would like, and it's over in the student union. It's on the hidden floor, So we are on the third floor. Not a lot of students realize the building on the east side only has a third level. So you have to use the stairs or elevator by the information table to get up to the third floor. But you can request your free appointment by just going to our website, which is ksu.edu/Powercat Financial. And when you click on request a free appointment, you're going to log into cases, you'll answer some questions, indicate what you'd like assistance with, and we email you back an appointment time to meet with one of our peer financial counselors. These are students in the finance majors like financial planning, business finance, accounting, economics, ag business, and they want to become financial services providers in the future. And so this is a great training opportunity or internship for them to provide you all services as well. We also, you should know, provide those services online. So if you can't make it over to the office physically, you can request an online session via Zoom. So distance students can receive the services that med students across campus that are too busy to come over to the student union can request financial counseling services as well. So it's very accessible, and all of the information that we have touched on today is also described in a lot more detail on our website. So if you wanted to create a budget, there's a budget tool on the website. If you wanted to look up information about your student loans, there's links and resources to do that.
So these are some additional sources that K-State students can look into when trying to deal with either their financial stress or regular stress, dealing with academic concerns that may be resulting from some financial stress. So specifically mentioning counseling services, we're now located at 1105 Sunset Avenue, which is the building that is frequently associated with Lafine. So we are actually not part of Lafine. We are in the bottom level of that building, separate from Lafine. So Lafine Health Center is also another resource for students to access, especially when financial stress seems to be presenting maybe some somatic complaints or health issues or concerns that an individual may want to seek medical help for. Office of Student Financial Assistance, which is located in Fairchild Hall. Of course, Powercat Financial, located in the Student Union Building, and the Academic Achievement Center as well, can help with some organization strategies, and they are located in Holton Hall. These are the references for some of the statistics that we cited today.
Yeah, and I might quote just a couple of more statistics from the national study on college financial wellness. So this is a study that the Ohio State University did across the nation, and there were 65 institutions that participated, and K-State was one of them. And it's kind of interesting to know where we are as an institution on some of these areas. So one question is, I have enough money to participate in most of the same activities as my peers. And here at K-State, about 25% of students disagreed or strongly disagreed with that statement. So about a quarter of our students feel that FOMO effect of not being able to participate. And then as regard to feeling stressed about personal finances in general, 67% of K-State students agreed or strongly agreed that they were stressed about their personal finances. So that's a very significant number in alignment with the national numbers as well. Worrying about having enough money to pay for school, that was over almost 68 or 58% agreed or strongly agreed about that. And then a couple of areas that students were mostly concerned about, things like student loan debt. About 30% said that it was a large amount of stress, and 18% said an extreme amount of stress in regards to student loans. But one thing that was encouraging is that our numbers were a little bit lower in the credit card debt area. So as far as credit card debt at K-State, students indicated that this was only about, almost 6%, a large or extreme amount of stress for them versus national averages, which were almost double that amount. So it's interesting just to know what we're experiencing here on our campus, but knowing that you do have a lot of wonderful resources that maybe other campuses don't provide at your disposal, if you will take advantage of those. And I think now we will open it up for some questions if anybody would like to ask any questions. Yeah, so the comment was regarding our tuition method here at K-State, which is varied tuition from year to year depending on what the Board of Regents and the university decides, versus some other institutions where they are able to offer a student a fixed tuition amount that then is set for their term that they're at that university. And I don't know if that has been examined. Perhaps it is something the university has looked at before, but obviously they haven't implemented it. I can see how that would give you a little more control as a student, knowing upfront what the total cost was going to be for your 4 years there. But it probably is hard for a university to manage when there's so many changes to the budget structure here and the way that we're funded through either state support or other funding sources that change from year to year. But it definitely is something that the students should communicate to administration if that's something that students feel would be helpful and valuable. Then you definitely have a voice, and especially K-State students have a strong voice. And I would suggest that you might want to communicate that to administration and say, I would, have you looked at that model, and is that something that you could consider to address students' stress in the area of budgeting for that large amount?
Great question. Thank you. Any other questions regarding resources or budgeting strategies? Okay.
All right.
Well, I think that concludes our presentation today. So thank you for attending.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate your concentration.